Pigeon racing began as a sport where fanciers could breed their birds and race them back to their home lofts. But new forms of entertainment and technology now compete with the hobby. Traditional club racing has shrunk. Many clubs have dissolved, and the number of racers is declining. But in the 1980s, a new form of the sport began to take hold: Loft Racing. It is both a revolution and evolution of the hobby, and many fanciers believe it will save the sport. It has become a lucrative breeding competition, with prizes in the tens and hundreds of thousands of dollars. In this episode of Pigeon Beat, we take an insider's look at three of the smallest and largest races in America. We meet their owners and learn more about the highlights and struggles from their lofts. Join us as we travel to Tim Kirshner's Breeders' Fall Classic in North Carolina, Stephen Michael's new Mid-American Challenge in Iowa, and Jim Ward's Hoosier Classic, the first $1 million purse in pigeon racing in America. Pigeon Beat is brought to you by Kastle Pigeon. Pigeon breeders have been searching for alternatives to antibiotics to keep their birds in super health, and the line of Kastle Pigeon products were specially developed for just that. Made in America and using scientific research, Kastle Pigeon products are formulated by nutritionists to help develop a pigeon's natural immunity. You can count on the Kastle Pigeon products to give your birds the health advantage you are looking for, naturally. Tim Kirshner spent 40 years working with college and professional football players as a trainer. He knows a thing or two about conditioning. We visit with Tim at his Loft race, the Breeders' Fall Classic, to learn how he uses altitude to condition his 400 pigeons and a little attitude to tame his critics.
My background is as an athletic trainer. What that means is I was involved in the care, prevention, and rehabilitation of athletes that are injured. My friend Eddie Abramowski was a trainer for the Buffalo Bills. Eddie asked me one day, he said, "Okay, you've been down there for 3, 4, 5 years." He said, "What have you learned about the birds?" I said, "I've learned that I don't know a damn thing about pigeons." I said, "I'll be honest with you, the longer I'm here, the more I wonder what I really know." People always ask me, "Why do you do this?" You know, you're there by yourself. You're there every day. You don't know, you live so rural, you don't really know anybody here. You don't go play golf, I basically just mess with the birds. To me, pigeons have always been a challenge, not against other people, but what I could do with them. Can you get them healthy? Can you make them fly so that you can get the best out of them? That's the challenge of what I'm doing. And I'm doing it with other people's birds now. But, you want a challenge? Start a Loft race. I dare you. I retired about 6 years ago, and I was looking for a place without the snow, okay, because Cleveland winters are just brutal. And I kind of went online, of all things, and I wanted something in the mountains. I wanted something up, with some altitude to it. I looked at several different places down here, and for the life of me, I don't know how I ended up in Lenore, okay? I have no idea. One of the things I was looking at was I wanted a place to fly birds and maybe start a Loft race. And this place was absolutely perfect because of the altitude, because it's very open. I kind of got to the point where I just wanted away from people. I really did. This is an ideal place to have pigeons. It's ideal. My grandfather always told me, and he was a farmer, where the sun doesn't go, the doctor will, okay? And there's never a truer statement with pigeons. And I'll tell you another thing. We have destroyed pigeon health in this country. I don't care what anybody says. You want to know why they're breaking down and why they're getting sick? It's because they've been repetitively medicated. You know, look at the viruses that are out there and the bacteria that are out there that are 100% drug resistant. Why do you think they are? That's on us, and nobody will admit it. Nobody will, you know, tell you, oh yeah, you're probably right. You know, there's 100 flyers at least in this race. That's 100 different exposures of biospheres, 100 different biospheres of their own unique bacteria, viral exposure, whatever. All different. There's birds here from Puerto Rico, Hawaii, Canada, all over the United States. And it's important to remember they're all bringing their own little world. That is a handler's nightmare. Trust me. Probably the biggest complaint I hear about my race is you don't train enough. Because of where we're at, and there's a lot of factors involved here, but number one, we're at altitude, all right? So we have a bigger hemoglobin concentration in the blood. It's like athletes going and training at altitude. The reason they do that is there's more hemoglobin in their blood, which they can transport more oxygen, all right? When I let the birds out here, and it's been that way since the first time, the first year, the first bunch I had. I don't really know what it is, but these birds will fly like hell. I've never had birds fly like they will fly here. If I'm not training enough, if you look at the percentage of birds that I start racing with and that I end up with, those numbers are ridiculous. I would venture to say, and I'm not trying to, you know, be a jackass here, I would venture to say nobody in America has the percentage of results that I do. Running a one loft race is, most people think, hey, I'm going to make a lot of money at this. That's the biggest misnomer of the whole bunch. It's continuous, you are continuously spending money, whether you want to or not. There's a lot of hidden cost in a one loft race. Maybe one of the most difficult things to deal with is people think if they spend $5,000 on a bird that has flown well in Europe, and you got to remember, middle distance in Europe is basically short distance to us. But they spend a lot of money on birds, and they equate that with these birds are going to be great. And they send them and they don't do anything. And no matter what happens, it's the handler's fault. Okay, I promise you that. It is never has and never will be their birds. It's the idiot that's handling them. And you know what? There's days I don't feel like doing nothing. I'm 67 years old. There's days I just want to sit in the chair over there and rock. You know, and you just got to tell yourself, hey, these people paid their money, their hard-earned money. Get off your ass and go do what you're supposed to do. And it's that simple. And that's what you have to do. People ask me, why do you do it? It's really a personal challenge to me, and that's why I do it. I mean, people are like, I don't understand that. Well, then don't understand it. I'm just telling you. To me, it's like, can you do this? And can you do this well? That's why I do it.
We leave the mountains of western North Carolina and head 735 miles as the Pigeon flies to central Iowa, where Stephen Michael is in his second year running the Mid-American Challenge. It's a small race, averaging around 100 pigeons, and it was not immune to the struggles of a new race. We visit with Stephen to see exactly why he started this race and why he won't quit.
Everything in my life has been to get up and keep going. Whenever you get knocked down, wrestling was a big aspect in that. I was a very strong athlete, and whenever you're down, you keep going. The Marine Corps instilled that in me. My parents instilled it in me. The American dream, I started from the bottom of the company and ended up buying it. So it all comes from that mentality. Well, we're in a small town, LaPorte City, Iowa, just south of Waterloo, Iowa. My name is Stephen Michael with the Mid-American Challenge. This will be our second year. LaPorte City is kind of down in the valley, right in the center of Iowa, pretty much the heart of the Midwest, all cornfields, cattle farms, I mean, anything to deal with farming. I was born into pigeons. My father had pigeons when he was a kid. I've been around pigeons my entire life. The only short time I was out was when I was in the Marine Corps. And pigeons have been a blessing in my life. Well, if we're going to get personal about it, my dad and I had a lot of conflicts in our life, and they actually brought us back together. My father and I didn't talk for a few years, just because we butted heads because we were too much alike. And he found out I got back into the pigeons, and he came and asked if he could come watch a race with me. And shortly after we bonded again, we were building a pigeon loft together, and unfortunately he died in a car accident. So that's why I say the pigeons were a blessing, because they helped us recreate that bond before something happened. Come on, girl, there you go. Pigeon sport, unfortunately, in Iowa and in many places is dying, so it makes it difficult for clubs to fly against each other. No longer are pigeons flying to the same area. They have to break earlier. That's a big part of why I started this one loft, was because I drive 2.5 hours one way just to basket my pigeons for a race. And with my kids being at that age, you realize you want to spend more time with them, and everybody kept telling me the one loft would take time away, but it actually gives me more time. Oh, they did? Yeah, because they're trained for it. I mean, there's a big myth that somebody starts a one loft and you're going to get rich off of it. My first year in it, I was $17,000 in the hole just to get started. So if you're going to start a one loft because you think you're going to get rich, it's not going to happen. Everybody starts small. I mean, Jim Ward started small. I talked to him. He had struggles when he started. Everybody has struggles when you start. It's tough. It's a whole new ball game. It's not just racing your own pigeons anymore. As of right now, I only have 80 some birds in there, and normally when I race my own birds, I have 150. So managing a team like this is pretty simple, and they get a lot of attention. I like to be able to watch their dropping, so each bird's very, very individually taken care of, just like my own. Last year was a pretty bad year. I did not have a lot of birds that made it to the final race due to what I believe was a health issue. I didn't have a single day bird. I took them 350 miles. When we let them up and what the weather showed was beautiful, and I drove about 50 to 70 miles towards home, and it started raining, and it rained nonstop the entire day. And then it rained for the next 3 days. It's gut-wrenching. As soon as you turn your windshield wipers on, you know. It's a lot worse when it's other people's birds. When you ever hear the saying, you felt sick to your stomach, you really feel like you're going to throw up, or you really are honestly sick to your stomach. You can't be a quitter. You gotta keep working through it. It's the Marine Corps mentality. I mean, you don't quit. You get up, you dust yourself off, and you go again. That were dirt. Okay. Was it?
They were both. One of them was very long.
Both my parents instilled integrity and don't quit attitude in me. I believe that you're taught at a young age. And I really believe that's the value of competition at a young age, like Little League Baseball. It's just your whole life, you learn it. My kids are very competitive in everything they do. I let them do whatever they want. I have one girl who decided to wrestle. I sat her down and told her my only requirement was she couldn't quit. Once she started, she had to finish a season. Work is how America started. Work's what we have to instill in our kids. When our kids fall, when they're at home, this is the time for them to fall because their parents can help them up. I believe lead by example is the #1 thing. So yes, when my kids see me fail and see me not quit and continue to go, absolutely, you can't teach them any better. Well, thanks for your help, honey.
Yeah.
I appreciate it.
Love you.
Love you too. Life's full of failures. Anybody who says they haven't failed at something hasn't tried.
In the wide open farmland of northern Indiana, Jim Ward runs the Hoosier Classic. It's no simple task to condition and maintain 400 or even 100 pigeons. But Jim has taken on the unthinkable task of caring for 3,000 pigeons this year. We visit the largest race in North America, with a prize purse of over $1 million, to see how Jim does it, and what drove him to take it on.
I love racing pigeons. It's the competition part of it is my favorite part. The Shasta race hooked me into Loft Racing because he ran it so well. And I enjoy it. And I've seen how many people enjoy it in other races. And I love it. I love getting the birds home. I love keeping the birds healthy. At times it's a struggle. But it all begins with your love for pigeons. And maybe that's a generic answer, but I think all One Loft guys have to love pigeons in order to do it. So we built this loft. We started building this loft in July of last year, and we finished just about when the birds were arriving this year. The loft is 140 feet by 140, so 280 feet with a 100 by 12 foot fly pen attached to both sides. There's over 10,000 perches, just over 10,000 perches in the loft, and could comfortably hold 6,000 pigeons. I grew up on the south side of Chicago, a little neighborhood called Back of the Yards, and it was flooded with pigeon flyers, and that's when the pigeon bug bit me. My uncles had pigeons, and the whole neighborhood had pigeons. If I was good, they let me in the pigeon loft. If I was a little rowdy that day, I wasn't allowed in. But that's where my love of pigeons started. The competition part of it is my favorite part. I'm a competitive person. These birds are taken so many miles away, and they come home because they love what you do for them. And that's if I do my job good, the birds are coming home. That is amazing to me. When we built it with the pigeons in mind. Everything in the loft should be for the pigeons and not the manager. And that's where we went with it. The loft sits on almost 20 acres of land. And again, we're in Wanata, Indiana. You can look around, it's nothing but farmland. Not much the pigeons can get into as far as getting themselves into trouble, hitting wires or anything like that. This is our routine every day, Monday through Sunday and back on Monday. It's pigeons, pigeons, pigeons. I couldn't do it by myself. It takes a team, takes a good team. First thing I do when I come in the morning, I look at droppings. I start my pigeon day by looking at pigeon droppings. And what I see in this room is almost perfect. Lofts are cleaned every day. From top to bottom. One guy on the perches, and you're gonna see how the floors are cleaned in a minute. You're not gonna believe it. Now, there's 22 rooms, and he'll hit all 22 rooms on the floor. Keith is my father-in-law. Without Keith, I would close the doors and walk away from this project. The thought of Loft Racing, hosting a Loft race, first entered my mind when visiting Belgium with some friends. We had stopped at the Masters Loft race. It was very professionally ran, and later on that evening, the discussion came up that I had a perfect piece of property to host it. Al Hilliard and I discussed it that evening, and Al says, well, if we're gonna do it, it's gotta be done this year or else we're never gonna do it. And we put a loft up 72 feet long and started the Hoosier Classic. So our first year hosting the Hoosier Classic, Al and I think we were just under 300 pigeons arrived. We couldn't get anything right in year two. It was just terrible. We could not get it right. I was gonna throw in the towel. I told Al Hilliard, I'm done. I'll pay you for your half of the loft. I'm done, I can't do it. And here comes an article out in the Racing Pigeon Digest from Joe Nemelka. And Joe is very critical on Loft races, and he'll tell you if you're good and tell you if you're bad. He went on to explain that if you're gonna take on a Loft race, do it for 5 years. And I was like, oh, 5 years, that's forever. So it was Joe's article that kept me in it for year three. And I'll tell you what, year 3, 4, and 5 was much better. Because I put my heart into it, and you have to. It's hands-on every day if you want to be successful. I'm looking to be here for a while. We guaranteed the money. That was a big gamble on our behalf. Prize money is definitely what lures people in. They love the big prizes, but there's many people that love the competition of it, and that's what it was. The competition was raised to a whole new level this year. When you fly in a Loft race, you're not flying against another loft, you're flying against a breeder, if that makes sense. All the birds are coming to one location, and it's a level playing field. If the birds are taken care of correctly, it's a level playing field. They're all fed the same, they're trained the same, medicated the same. And there's birds in here from top lofts in the United States to guys you never heard of. And the guys you never heard of, their birds size up right out of the box to the champions, you know. And it's going to be an interesting year, that's for sure. We have higher goals for this race. We would like to have more pigeons in the race in the coming years. Our plan is to increase the prize money next year and possibly pay out $500,000 to first place. It's never been done. Could it be done? Yes, very, very much. Our goal is to make the Hoosier Classic the best race in the world. We never set out to be the biggest, we just want to be the best.
Thank you for watching Pigeon Beat, brought to you by Kastle Pigeon, your source for natural health supplements for pigeons. Made in America and trusted by hundreds of breeders worldwide.